Hello and welcome to a new week. And this week I'm talking about how you can create a play space that really fires your children's imagination. So, how you can inspire your children to play more without spending a penny. Just going to close something up there. And so this is for you if you're like a couple I was speaking to recently who said to me, our children don't play, they complain that they're bored, and yet they have so many toys and they want yet more things for Christmas, but we're worried that the new things are going to go the way of the old after a month or two. And what can we do? And I totally understand this predicament. I mean, who doesn't want the happy hum of play in their home? Because if children aren't really playing, you're missing out, they're missing out. And then there's the lure of electronics if they're not really engaged in their play. And you may also be feeling that you need to take them to more clubs and societies and things like that to make up for the fact that they're not playing at home. It's just simply frustrating when children don't seem to be able to get engaged in their play. So if we don't know each other, I'm Una and I help you create a deep soul bond with your child so that you can have the happy family you've always wanted. And one of the ways that you can create this happy family is one of the fundamental, really important ways is to support your child's authentic self-expression. This is one of the key ingredients, if you like. And there's nothing more authentic, nothing more self-expressed than play. Because if you think about it, at any other time in a child's life, apart from when they're playing, adults are always putting kind of limits on the way they can do things or what they can do. For example, a child can't express themselves by, wearing a swimsuit when they go shopping in November, or they can't express themselves by like throwing pasta at the walls at mealtime, or by kind of playing catch in the back of the car while you're driving to the supermarket, because we have rules about these things, right? And we need to keep children safe and kind of keep a certain amount of order in the home. But in play, there are no limits. Literally, the sky's the limit. It's the play can go just as far as your child's imagination, which is, in fact, limitless. And because the play is actually taking place in your child's imagination, in their imaginative narrative, and there are no limits here. Of course, they require materials as well, as we'll see. But so it's really important for a child's self-expression that they do have opportunities to play in their life, and also provide some relief for you as well, right? When children are involved in play, you can do other things. So why don't children play? Why does it happen that children have many toys but they don't play? And what I'm going to do in a moment is share a few things that I see happening in 21st century homes that get in the way of children's play. And I want to share these things with you because I think it'll help you understand what's happening and so enable you to do something about it. And before we do that, I want to just back up a bit and talk about what children actually need to play. What overarching things, principles do children need to play? Well, first of all, and most importantly, they need their imagination, of course, because this is where play takes place. Play is it's a state of mind, really. It's an inner narrative, it's a journey, it's a state of exploration and creativity and trying things out. And that all takes place in the imagination. So of course they need their imagination. And secondly, they need to feel safe, secure, and connected in their lives as a whole and in the context of the play environment that they're in. And that's why sometimes you might go to a children's party and your child might not get involved in the play straight away because that element is lacking. They're not feeling safe, secure, and connected in that particular context. So that's another really important ingredient. And then, of course, children need play materials, but probably less than we think, and also more rudimentary than we think they require. And then fourthly, children need space to play. And in fact, the space in which children can play is just as important as the materials they need to play with. So I promised you I'd tell you about the 4 things that I see happening in 21st century homes that I think get in the way of really successful, happy play and the happy hum of play. And, make children reluctant to play. So the first one is this, and it has to do with the layout of the play area. So very often in homes that I visit or when I talk to parents, I hear that all the toys are in boxes and drawers and baskets and things, and they're kind of all tidied away, so they're not really visible. And actually, children need to be able to see materials in order for their imagination to be sparked and fired. And the younger children are, the truer this is. But even with older children, seeing materials gives them ideas. And so there's kind of tension here, isn't there? Because as adults, we often like to have things kind of away and tidy. We don't like the mess or the garish colours or just the kind of volume or whatever. So stuff tends to get put away. And but this isn't ideal for stimulating children's play. Excuse me, just needed to have a drink. So the second thing is, this also has to do with the boxes and baskets. These boxes and drawers and things often tend to be very full. So you can compare this with when you might want to go out or get ready to go out, and you kind of having to rummage through the drawers, getting past all sorts of pieces of clothing that either don't fit anymore, or you don't like anymore, or they're just simply too old or worn out or whatever, in order to get to that top that you actually want to wear. And by the time you get there, it's kind of crushed underneath everything else. And you kind of lose your enthusiasm by that time. And it's the same for children. When there's too much stuff, they can't see the wood for the trees, if you like. They can't get to the stuff that they want. It all becomes a bit of a blur, and it's just not inspiring. And then third of all, what I often see and hear as well is that the space to play is limited. And of course, we all live in different size houses, and sometimes we don't have much space. And I think it's not just about this. I think it is about kind of understanding. That's why I kind of shared with you what the ingredients for play are earlier on. That the space to play is every bit as important as the things to play with. And you can imagine, just as a kind of rule of thumb, each item that a child has to play with needs an equivalent amount of space around it to facilitate the play, because it's in that space around which has nothing in it that the imagination can start to work. And when everything is rammed together, or the play space is, say, cluttered with furniture, or even kind of really big play items, like, they're like those big car parks or kind of big tigers that you get at fairs, then what can happen is that the imagination just doesn't have space to work, because everything's kind of already full. There's nothing more to do. And then fourthly, there can be a real problem with 21st century play materials. And I think what often is the case is that play materials and toys that are available to buy now are often designed to entertain children rather than support them to really play deeply. And I've been watching some kiddie ads recently. I stumbled upon them on the television, and And I was really struck by how, well, there's one toy, for example, that stood out that enables you to create a Mr. Whippy ice cream. So with plastic cones and kind of foam to make the whippy ice cream. And I'm sure that this would totally delight a young child for, for a few times that they played it. But after a while, there's only one thing that you can do with that toy, and the child will get bored because their imagination wants to do 1,000 things, not just one thing. So these toys those kind of toys can they don't give the children the scope for their imagination to get fired up, and they're too specific, and they're too defined and determined. And your child's imagination is so powerful, and it wants scope. It wants scope to be able to play and develop. So what can you do about this? And next week I'm going to give you some tips on this, how you can really create a space, and go on, to give you some more practical tips. But in the meantime, today, I'd love you to start thinking, what has this inspired you to do? What do you feel you could do? And I'll just give you a hint that less is more when it comes to play things. So you might be tempted to take a trip to the charity shop and thin out what's there in your child's resources. So, and you might find that alone supports them to do more play. And if you would like some more bespoke help with this, you may have seen last week that I've created a new offering which is called Happy Family at Home, which involves a visit from me to your home. And if play is an area that you'd really like to support your child in developing, this would be a fantastic way for me to support you with this, because I can quite quickly scan your play area and give you some tips for what you can do to have a really wonderful overhaul without spending any money, either no money or very little, so that you can hear much more of the happy hum of play in your home. So if this has been helpful, do give me a thumbs up or a heart, and look out for next week's video where I will be continuing to share information on how to create a play space that really fires your child's imagination. Lots of love. Bye.